Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the crazy world we die in. Sad times right now, it's sad times. This video is in relation to an actor who maybe, I think the terms icon, legend, words like that are thrown out quite a lot. I believe this person definitely fits the bill. So this is my tribute to James Earl Jones, who sadly passed away this week. So James was an absolutely great actor with over 200 credits in a variety of different fields, whether that is film, television, stage, etc. Guys, before I get into the video, so if this is the first time that you've been on this channel, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. And I hope you do keep coming back. You do keep liking this content. James Earl Jones was a very popular actor, most well known for a number of things, which I'm going to go into shortly. And what I'm going to do, there's so much about James that I could talk about, looking at his history from his childhood to his acting career. There's so much to talk about, so I'm going to talk about what's relevant to me, what I most remember him for, and hopefully share some good times with yourselves. There may be some things that you may not know about James, which hopefully, if you didn't, I'll enlighten you during this video. So James Earl Jones is very well known, has a very distinctive voice. If somebody said to me, okay, give me some people with really distinctive voices, so people that would straight away come to mind is probably David Attenborough. You know his voice, don't you? Morgan Freeman, and James Earl Jones certainly fits that criteria. Very deep voice, very well known. You hear it and straight away you know who that voice belongs to. And what is funny is that probably, or maybe arguably, two of the things that he's most well known for are to do with his voice. James Earl Jones sadly passed away at the age of 93. At the time of recording this video, I don't have many details about his death. There has been numerous tributes made in relation to James Earl Jones from various people, such as Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars films, also was the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series. You had Vice President Harris, George Lucas, and you've had other people from Whoopi Goldberg to Denzel Washington. I think it's clear that James Earl Jones had such an influence and a reach in regards to his peers and not just his peers, people all around the world. And it is, like I said at the beginning of the video, a really sad time that he is no longer with us. So in memory of James Earl Jones, I did see on the internet that an image of Darth Vader had been superimposed on the Empire State Building. I think that was a really nice touch. I'm going to talk just briefly about James Earl Jones's childhood and just some key facts that when I was reading up about him, I learned. So I didn't know that he had a stutter. So he had the stutter from grade 1 up until grade 9. I'm from the UK, so I wasn't sure about the ages. So I may be wrong. So if I am, please feel free to correct me in the comments, but I believe grade 1 is around 6 or 7 years old, up until grade 9, which is something like 16 or 17. And from the research that I found, his stutter was to such an extent that he didn't talk. Apparently he was basically mute, didn't really speak to anybody apart from animals. So he's credited a high school teacher by the name of Donald Crouch. Now Donald Crouch was basically the person that got James Earl Jones to start speaking, and he did this through James Earl Jones's poetry. So James Earl Jones's poetry was really good. Mr. Crouch has obviously identified that James Earl Jones has got a passion. He's got a particular interest in writing poetry, and to encourage him to speak, he's told him that this poetry is so good, but he needs to say it in front of the class so the class can hear how good it is. James Earl Jones has done this, and this is what's basically given him the confidence to then start speaking and overcome his stutter. You look at certain events in people's lives, and clearly this teacher had a massive influence, because you could argue that if he didn't intervene when he intervened and got James Earl Jones to speak, then we may not have known or been blessed with his absolutely wonderful voice. So staying with his childhood, he went to Michigan University where he studied medicine, and I also learned that he served in the Korean War. I didn't know that James Earl Jones was part of the military. I don't know if you did. So one of the things I learned about James Earl Jones is that when he first started off in his acting career, he actually adopted the stage name Todd Jones. I don't know how long he had this name for, but obviously it was a name that didn't stick. and he went back to his original name. He also worked as a janitor to make ends meet, so he finally got his break on Broadway, and his Broadway debut was in 1957 in the production Sunrise at Campobello's. So moving forward, James Earl Jones was heavily involved in a number of Shakespeare plays ranging from Othello to Hamlet. On a side note, Hamlet is probably my favourite Shakespeare play, absolute masterpiece. I remember it from school. If you are going to read a Shakespeare play, a lot of people would say Romeo and Juliet or Macbeth. Personally, I would say check out Hamlet. It is a really, really good play. So moving from the stage, we then go on to film, and James Earl Jones's film debut was in 1964 in the film Dr. Strangelove. From there, he had numerous roles, so I'm going to concentrate on 3 roles that he had, which I think personally for me are the 3 that I remember him mostly by. I will make some honourable mentions. The first one that I'm going to mention is Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It is the first of the 2, so you had Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. So he was in Conan the Barbarian. Another honourable mention, and it is a cheesy film, but it's a film which I quite like, is Best of the Best. If you remember that film, James Earl Jones is the coach of the US team. If you remember that film, and he was also in Patriot Games. So 1977 was the year that Star Wars came out. Now, Star Wars, a massive franchise. You could argue and say it's maybe one of the biggest franchises in the world. So there have been numerous films, numerous spin-offs. So the first film, Star Wars A New Hope, was in 1977. If I said to somebody, tell me 3 things about Star Wars, I think there's numerous things that would pop up. So you would have things like lightsabers, the Death Star, and 100% you would have Darth Vader. Now, I'm sure everybody in the world knows, but the voice of Darth Vader was played by none other than James Earl Jones. Personally, I think it is probably his most iconic role. I'm going to talk about another one which I think certainly comes close, but I will think Darth Vader is his most iconic role. It is a voice that you hear. It is absolutely brilliant. So David Prowse was actually the actor who portrayed Darth Vader. James Earl Jones only lent his voice to the role, and James Earl Jones almost never got the role because David Prowse was a consideration. But unfortunately for him, and fortunately for James Earl Jones, he had quite a strong West Country accent, and George Lucas didn't think his voice was suitable for the role. I then move on to the second film I always remember James Earl Jones by, and that is Coming to America. Coming to America, a wonderful film, great cast. Eddie Murphy was the main star of that film, but there were a number of people in that film that made it what it is. You had Arsenio Hall, you had Samuel Jackson makes a cameo in the film. So 2 actors I'm going to mention. So you had John Amos and you had Calvin Lockhart. So they may be names not particularly familiar to you. So John Amos is certainly a face you remember. He's been in a number of films. He's been in Die Hard 2. He was also in Roots, and it's certainly, if you see the face, you'll be like, okay, I know him. And Calvin Lockhart had a very small role in Coming to America. The reason I'm going to bring this up is both of them starred in a film called Let's Do It Again, which starred Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. It is an absolutely wonderful film, and I implore you to check it out. On a side note, Calvin Lockhart's character is called Biggie Smalls, and the late rapper, the Notorious B.I.G., uses the alias Biggie Smalls, and that is where he got the name from. So if you didn't know, now you know. So in Coming to America, when it comes to James Earl Jones, I remember his presence. So when he first gets to America and he steps out the car, but before he goes into the barber shop, you remember thinking, oh, the SHIT is going to hit the fan. The fact that he's come over from Zamunda to America to find Akeem. And then I also remember when he knocks at the door, or they knock at the door, Arsenio Hall's character opens it, screams. And after he opens it again, he sort of gets gripped up by James Earl Jones and put against the wall. So it's 2 parts of the film I remember which clearly showed the presence he had. And the last role I'm going to talk about, and really going to have to mention it, was the 1994 animated film The Lion King. Arguably Disney's best film. I don't know. It's certainly up there. Let me know what you think. It is a great film. I think the remake maybe not as good personally, but the original film was a wonderful film. And again, you look at the voice actors for that film. So you had James Earl Jones, you had Rowan Atkinson, you had Whoopi Goldberg, Cheech Marine, Jeremy Irons obviously voiced Scar. It is a wonderful film, and James Earl Jones's commanding voice as Mufasa is an absolute masterstroke. You actually think about it and you say to yourself, nobody could have done it better. It is so iconic, and considering that Mufasa isn't in the film for the entirety, you still remember some of the lines. Straight away, the first line that pops into my head is, "Everything the light touches is our kingdom." Another particular favourite of mine is after the hyenas try and deal with Simba, and Mufasa comes and saves him. He says the line, "If you ever come near my son again." Again, just showing the presence that he commanded by using his voice, and he lent it expertly to Mufasa in The Lion King. So when I was thinking about facts about James Earl Jones, there's so much about him. The first one I learned, and to tell you the truth, I was quite shocked, and it was that James Earl Jones doesn't have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which I think is outrageous, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So if I go back to Star Wars, James Earl Jones asks not to be credited for the first two films, so that would be Star Wars: A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. He was credited for the third film, Return of the Jedi, but considering the role that he played, I was quite surprised at that. I don't know if you are too. James Earl Jones is one of a few people who has won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. So going back to Star Wars, originally Orson Welles was the first choice to play or to voice Darth Vader, but George Lucas wanted somebody at the time who was not as well known with a similar voice. So James Earl Jones was cast. And again, sticking on the theme of Star Wars, and this is, I'm sure most people know this. So when it comes to movie quotes, there's a line from The Empire Strikes Back, which is probably one of the most misquoted lines of all time. So the line which is usually said by people is, "Luke, I am your father." The actual line is, "No, I am your father." And then going back to Coming to America, now James Earl Jones plays the King of Zamunda, and so his wife, the actress who plays his wife in Coming to America, is Madge Sinclair. So James Earl Jones and Madge Sinclair played Eddie Murphy's character's parents in Coming to America, and in Lion King they also play the parents of Simba. So they were husband and wife in Coming to America, husband and wife in The Lion King. Do lions get married? I don't know about that. So guys, I just wanted to give my final shout out to James Earl Jones. Again, just highlighting it's a really, really sad time in relation to his passing. You look at his body of work and he's so influential. And again, I think that is just reflected in the tributes which have been pouring in for him. This is my tribute to him and what I mostly remember him by. If you like this content, please press that like button, please press that subscribe button, and if you've got any comments to make, let me know. Is there any other films that you remember him by? Have you seen any of his plays? I didn't even touch on really any of his work on TV. It was actually the first celebrity to be in Sesame Street. So Sesame Street has been going for years and years and years, and James Earl Jones was the first celebrity. Again, just showing the influence and how he was regarded. So again, guys, thank you for tuning into this content. I hope you liked it, and I will see you on the next episode of The Crazy World We Die In. Take care.